Hello and welcome to another step-by-step tutorial video for students in CIS 1A. In this video, we're going to be looking at Access Chapter 4, Independent Project 4-6 in SIMnet. I'm John Coverdale and I'll be taking you step-by-step through this project. When we're finished, I'll submit my files and get my grade. If I make any mistakes, I'll show you how to fix them so that you can get full credit for your project. In this project, we're working for the pretend Courtyard Medical Plaza, and there's a database that has two tables. One table is for keeping track of all the doctors who rent space at the medical plaza. The other one has all the invoices that have been sent to the doctors for their monthly rent. To get started, we'll need to get the start file, so you'll want to download that and find it on your hard drive in the Windows Explorer before you open that file. It's very important before you open this file to right-click on it and choose Properties, and then to check this box right here that says Unblock right there. And the reason for that is that if you don't do that, you will not be able to work on this file. I'll cancel this and I'll show you what will happen if you don't take care of this step first. When you open it, you're going to see security risk. Microsoft has blocked macros from running because this file, or the source of this file, is untrusted. That's because the file came from the internet. So I need to close this completely and then right-click on the icon, go to Properties, and then click on Unblock. Once I've done that, I can click OK, and I'm ready to open the file as normal. Let me double click on the icon and it's going to open up an Access. Okay, I still have the normal yellow stripe that just cautions me that I need to enable content. So I'll click on that and we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions for this project. I've opened the file. I'm not going to rename it, and I've enabled content. So the first thing that we're going to do together is create a new form using the blank form button, and we're going to add all of these fields from the physicians table in the following order. And you can read the list here. I'll go ahead and let you take a look at that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working off of a printed version of these instructions because there's a lot of details in these instructions, and I advise you to have either two windows side by side on your computer so you can switch back and forth if you have two monitors, or to print this out and have it to refer to while you're working. Let me go ahead and start this by creating a new form using the blank form button. So I'll go ahead and start that. To do that, I'm going to go to the Create tab, and you want to make sure that you're in the Forms area here. And so we're going to be clicking on the blank form button right there. When you do that, you're going to get a new tab that says Form 1, and it is indeed a blank form. And to be able to add fields to the form, we need to click on Show All Tables. Now at this point, I'm going to get my instructions out here, and I'm going to add the tables, the fields from the physicians table in the following order. Doctor ID. I'm going to double click with the very point of my mouse on Doctor ID. And it puts that into my form. There is a label where it tells me what field that is, Doctor ID. That's the caption. And then there's a box where I could see the actual Doctor ID or type a number. After that, we're going to go with first name, then last name, primary specialty, office number, and move-in date. So I think that's all the fields, a total of 6. But they're not in the same order as they are listed right there. So that is what we needed to do. Let's take a look at our instructions here. It says close the field list and save the form as Add New Physician. Now I'm going to highlight the red characters here, not the punctuation, but just the red name of this form. Right-click and choose Copy. Okay, and that will let me name it properly without making any typing mistakes. So I'm going to close the field list and save the form by hitting the little, well, if you have a little square save button up here, you can do that, or you can do the keyboard shortcut Control S, or you can choose Save here, and you'll be given a pop-up window to save the form, and you'll name an Add New Physician in what's called camel case, which is using capital letters for each word and no spaces. Once you double check your typing, click OK, and you'll see that we now have in our objects collection a form called Add New Physician, and the name of the form is also listed up here in this tab. So let's keep on going by taking a look at our instructions, and we're going to go to step 5. We're going to edit the layout, edit the form in layout view, and add a new column and new rows. So we're going to add 2 rows below the tenant 6 row at the bottom and 1 column to the right. And I'll come back later once I've done that to get these numbers here for adjusting the width and height. But let's take care of steps A and B here right now. Going back to our to access, what you can do is you can take a look at the View tab. Now I'm on the Form Layout Design tab right here. I can check View, and I should be on Layout View. That's where you want to be. We're going to go ahead and click anywhere on the right-hand side of it. Click any one of these boxes right here, and we're going to go to Arrange and click once on Insert Right, and that's going to insert a new column to the right. Click on the bottom row someplace and click twice on Insert Below, once, twice. And so we have some places here, you can see these dotted lines that will let us put in some buttons. We're going to be adding buttons to the bottom of the form so our users can click on the buttons to perform various tasks. Okay. Now, before we do that, we want to make these 3 columns here the same size, and to make the bottom column taller so that we have enough room for our buttons. So going back to our instructions here, it says to adjust the width of each column to 1.6 and adjust the height of the last row to 0.4. So again, this could be where you want to have your instructions printed out for you. I'll go ahead and go back to Access here. I'm going to click right up here. Let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to click right up here at this little square right there. Can I zoom in? I'm going to try to zoom in on that. There we go. There's a little square here at the top. I'm going to click on that. That selects every one of these columns and rows. And so I want to change the width of each column to 1.6. Now to do that, I need to have my format properties out here to the side. So let's see, I need to be on the Form Layout Design tab and click on Property Sheet. You can also hit the F4 button, I believe. Let me try that. Yeah, that opens the Property Sheet. And whatever is selected in the form, we can change the properties of it here. And we're going to do this quite a bit in this project. And so I just want to call out to you right now that before you change anything on the right, you just kind of want to double check what you have selected on the actual form itself. Now we want to change the width of all the columns to 1.6. So everything is selected, and I'm going to go to width and type 1.6. Now it's inches, but I don't need to type the inches symbol. I'll hit enter, and you can see that now each one of these columns is the same width. I'm going to go down and click on part of the bottom row. I don't need to get the entire bottom row as long as I have some part of it here. And we want to change the height of this row from whatever it is to 0.4 inches. So .4, enter, and now we have a place where we can put a rectangular button here, here, and here. So let's go back to the instructions and check off these steps right here. We're going to add command buttons to the bottom row here. We're going to add 3 of them. And in the leftmost column, we're going to type on the button, the instructions on the button are going to say Save Physician Record. I'll go ahead and copy that. Okay, how do we add a button to the bottom row? Here's how we do it. If you go to Form Layout Design, that's the tab, in this area here with all the pictures, these pictures represent different elements that you would find in a Microsoft Windows style application. So it could be For example, I'll just show you the Save As dialog box for access. I'll go ahead and click yes there. And here we go. We've got a bunch of different things in this Save As dialog box. We've got a list of files here to browse files. We've got a drop-down list here. We have some buttons. So these are all user interface elements, and we can add these types of things here to the Add New Physician table. Let me make sure I'm in Layout View. There we go. We want to put a button right here. This thing right here happens to be the button tool, but you can kind of put your mouse over other things and it'll tell you what these different controls are called. We're just going to be using buttons. So click the one that's the button, just hover over it, make sure you get a pop-up tooltip that says button. Click it, and what happens is a little button follows your mouse, and that button is going to land wherever you click next. So be careful where you click. You want to get this pink rectangle highlighted right here. Click, and it drops a button right there. It gives it kind of a random name. Command 50 is what mine's called. We're going to change that, and we're going to make it into a button that saves our files. Now, what should have happened here is we should have had a control wizard pop open, and I'm not sure why that didn't happen. Let me go ahead and delete this and try again. Okay, I should have a control wizard that pops open. Okay, I paused the video here for just a second because there was a bug that was happening, and apparently it is a bug. What should happen is when you click on the button and then you click here, let me go ahead and do that. When I click here, it should open up a wizard, which is going to let me put the text on the button and decide what kind of task this button is going to do. We're going to see that in just a minute, okay? But I want to show you how I fixed it so that I can use the wizard. You can do this without the wizard. The first thing to check if you want to use the wizard is to check and make sure that this little box here, Use Control Wizards, is activated. In my case, it was, and a bug prevented me from getting the wizards to work. So what I did was I went to the View and I switched to Design View, and I can do the type of things that we're doing in this view as well. It's not, in my opinion, as easy to use this view for making your form. But what I did was I went to Form View, Design, and I dropped a button here. And at that point, the wizard did launch. I hit Cancel, and then I clicked on this button and I hit Delete to get rid of it. Now I'm going to switch back to Layout View, and I'm going to activate the wizard again here, and hopefully it's going to work properly. So I'm on the Form Layout Design tab. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click right there where this is highlighted pink. And then boom, I should get the command button wizard. So what do we do here? Well, what we want to do here is we want to use a button to save a record, and we're going to call it Save Physician Record. So I don't know if I copied that. I think I did, but what the heck, I'll copy it again. That's going to be Record Operations. So on the left-hand side, click that. Over here, click on Save Record, and I'll see if I can zoom in on that, and then click Next. Now, normally, it defaults to picture. There's a couple of pictures here, and there's a little save icon, or maybe a check mark. We're going to choose text, and we're going to put this text here. Instead of Save Record, it's going to be Save Physician Record. That's what the instructions told us to do. Let me zoom out and hit Next and go back to my instructions. We're going to give this a long name, Add Physician Form, Save Button. The form is called the Add Physician Form, and the button is called Save Button. So we combine those to get this long name here. Let's go back to Access and give it a meaningful name instead of a random name like Button 64. And at this point, I'll click Finish. We have a button here. It says what it does, and there's a bunch of other features here that we don't need to worry about. In fact, they told me to close this before, so I'll go ahead and do that right now so it's not taking up space. Let's repeat this process for the next button, which is going to be a second button in the middle of the bottom row. it's going to be called Add New Physician, and it's going to be to add a new record. So I'll copy that, and I'll click my button on the ribbon. It's activated with a little square around it. I'll click right where I want it to land, and then it's going to be, what did I say? I'll take a look at my printed instructions here. It's going to be a record operation for adding a new record. So let's click on Record Operations right there. Add New Record. Next. What text do we want the button to have? Click the text circle. Change the text here to Add New Physician. We're going to need to save it and call the button the Add Physician Form Add button. A long name because it has the name of the form followed by the name of the button. Let's hit Next and change this name to that name and hit Finish. And then finally, in this third place, we're going to do one more button, and that's going to be to close the form. And so we don't need to have any special wording on the button itself. We'll use the existing wording, but we will call it the Add Physician Form Close button. Let's do that right now. Click on the button tool on the toolbar. Click where you want that button to be dropped. We're going to choose to do a form operation for this. So on the left side, choose Form Operation. Choose Close Form as the action. Hit Next. Click the circle for text. It's going to have the text Close Form. That's good enough. Hit Next and give it a new name. The name is going to be the one I copied, Add Physician Form Close button. Hit Finish, and our new button is complete. And so that gets us down here to Step J. It says add a title to the form header. Edit the title to include spaces between words. This is very easy. Let's do it right now. What we want to do is find the button up here in the ribbon that says Title. And so click on that button. There we go. I'm just going to click that, Title. It puts a new space here, and it puts the title of the form, taking it from what we actually called this thing here, Add New Physician, using camel case, no spaces. We're going to add spaces here to make this a bit more readable and friendly looking. And so once you've done that, just click someplace neutral, and that will be the name of our form. Let's go to our instructions. Add the date to the form. Use the day, month, year format. Do not include the time. All right, we're going to go and find a button to click for adding the time, a timestamp to our form. Click on that. It opens a box to ask us what kind of formatting we want to have for this. We're going to choose the second circle right there for this format, and we will not include the time. So uncheck that box there. Click OK. And then that adds the time all the way over here on the, or excuse me, it adds the date all the way over here on the right side of this form. Let's go ahead and move that. Here's a picture of kind of how we want it to look. We want it to be 1.1 inches wide, and we want the left edge of that little wireframe box to be 4 inches from the edge, the left edge of our form. So let's do that right now. Click on that date that we just created, and it has this large box here. Either click on Property Sheet, which you see right here, or hit F4 to open the property sheet. And you may need to slide sideways. With your date selected, we're going to change the width of it to make it more narrow. It's going to be 1.1 for width. I'm going to go to Format to make it easier to find these properties here. Width is now 3 inches. I'm going to change that to 1.1. Then I'm going to find left. I can use the arrow key to move down 1, 2, 3 times. That's the left property. And put 4 there and hit Enter, and you'll see it teleports across the form to where it lines up kind of on the right-hand edge of the actual form area. That looks better. So let's go back and check off our instructions here. Save the changes to the form. The form should look kind of like this picture here, which it does. So I'll go ahead and save the form by using Control S, although you could also do File, Save, and it'll save the form for you that way. The instructions then tell us to restrict the form to only allowing data entry. What that means is that nobody can either erase any of our physicians or even change anything about the physicians. This form is only going to be used when we have new physicians to add to the database. So we need to have the property sheet open, which it already is. And if yours is not open, remember you need to activate this button right here, property sheet. Whoops, let me put the mouse back over it, property sheet, right there. And what you want to do is from the drop-down menu here, choose form and make sure it says form here, or you probably can't find what we're looking for. I'm going to click the tab that's labeled data, and we want to make a couple of things dialed in here. We want to change a couple of things here. Step 7C says select yes in the data entry property. Right now it says data entry no. Now you can either click on the word no and use this drop-down menu here to change it. What I actually prefer to do is to take a look at data entry here, click on the word data entry. It highlights it for me that it's no. I want data entry to be yes, and so if I just double-click the very point of the mouse on data entry, it flips that from no to yes. Okay, so let me click on data entry again. It highlights yes. That's what I want to see. Let me click on allow additions. It says yes right there. Okay, that was set by default. I don't need to change that. I can go ahead and save my form again. I'm going to use Control S to do that with the keyboard. I think I can close the property sheet now. I'm going to go ahead and switch to form view. And so when the form is actually going to be used by our customers or our users or ourselves, this is what it looks like. We can click here to add a new physician. But if you look down here at the bottom, I'll circle it. It says record 1 of 1. It doesn't let us browse through the records of the physicians in the database. So we can't actually look at any of the data. That could be for privacy reasons. We can do basically 3 things. We can type in something new here, add a new physician, save the physician record, or close the form. I'll hit close form, and it should close the form for us automatically. We can get it back whenever we want to by clicking it in our objects panel here, and it'll open it up in form view. If we need to change it later on, we make any mistakes, we'll want to switch that to layout view so we can modify it. But I think that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and close the form, and I think that completes everything that we need to do with this part of the project. So I'll check off these boxes here. And that gets us all the way to step 9. It says, create a report using the report wizard. And so I'm going to do that right now. We're going to launch the report wizard, and we're going to add all the fields from the rent invoices table in the following order. So you can take a look at that right there. I'm going to be looking at my printed out version of this in just a minute off camera. So let me go ahead and get back to our database and launch the report wizard. Let's go to the Create tab. Let's go to Reports and look for Report Wizard. Click on that. Okay, here's the wizard. It says, what do you want to have on your report? Which fields? And so here we are in step 8. In step 8B, it says we're going to be using the rent invoices table. So choose that. And here's all the fields that we can choose from. We're going to go in this order. Invoice ID, select it here, and use this little arrow to move it over. If you move something over by mistake, you can move it back with these arrows. You can also double-click on things to move them over. For example, FK Doctor ID, that comes next. I'll double-click it with my mouse. It moves it over. Invoice date, double-click it. Description. Due date, I believe, comes next. Yes. Date received comes next. Amount due comes next, and finally discount. So let's just double check the order here. Invoice ID, FK Doctor ID, invoice date, description, due date, date received, amount due, and discount. Okay, I really recommend that you double check the order of these fields. It's much easier to fix it right now than later on. In fact, probably the easiest way to fix it later on is to redo the form wizard, the report wizard. I mean, it's not the only way, but the book doesn't really teach you how to do those kind of fixes later on. Let's hit next. And if we go back to our instructions just for a second here, just to kind of refer to them, we've done A and B. It said accept the suggested grouping by FK Doctor ID on the second page, and then add summary options on the third page. In summary options, we're going to open a pop-up box and choose sum of the amount due field, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So let's go ahead and get back to the database and hit next. This is part 2 here. It says what order and summary do we want to do? We're going to go ahead and keep this here. Oh, I skipped one. It says what grouping levels do we want? We want to leave it just the way it is right here. This is the second panel. FK Doctor ID is going to be up here. Hit next. What sort, order, and summary information do you want for detailed records? Well, we're not going to change anything in this top part with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to click Summary Options, open a new box, and for amount due, we're going to check off the box under the sum function. And we are going to keep this circle here for detail and summary. And we're going to click OK here, and then click Next here. Very important that you do this by clicking the Summary Options box here and making this change. Really just check that box because it doesn't really show here that we've done anything, but we really have. Hit Next. How do we want to do our layout? Let's see what they tell us. It says a stepped layout and landscape orientation, and deselect where it says adjust the field width so all fields fit. We're going to handle that process of adjusting the width of the fields. We're going to handle that ourselves. So back to Access, I'm going to go ahead and choose stepped landscape and uncheck this box right here. Uncheck that little box right there. Hit Next. What do we want to call this? Let's see, do we need to change this in any way? Okay, do not make any changes to the suggested title. It's going to open up and it's going to look like this right here. So let's go ahead and hit Finish. Now, if you need to go back, you can use the back buttons and the next buttons to go back to any previous steps. I'm going to go ahead and hit Finish. I get a new report here called Rent Invoices. It's open. I've got the tab there for it, Rent Invoices. We have on the Home tab different views that we can see. This is the Print Preview view right here. We're going to be switching that to Layout view in a minute to work on it. Notice that it needs to print out on 2 pages because even though it's landscape, the page is not wide enough. We can see, however, that there's a lot of blank space on the left side of the page. And if we tighten things up somewhat and move things over to the left, we can fit this onto a single page width. So that's kind of what we're going to do in the next few steps here. Let's get out of Print Preview, and it says we're going to edit the report using Layout View, so our report looks kind of like this here. Okay, so let's close Print Preview. We can find it right here on the screen. Click that red X. And now we're in a view that we don't want to be in. This is called Design View. Let's get to Layout View. Layout View kind of shows us both the contents of our report, as well as letting us click on these boxes here and move things around and edit things. And so we have quite a bit of editing to do. We need to be in Layout View, so make sure that you are. On the Home tab, you can always change the view here, Layout View. I'm going to be on Report Layout Design for the most part. I also need to have my property sheet open over here, so I'll do that. And I'm going to make it a little bit narrower because I don't need to have quite so much space for the property sheet. Okay, now there's a lot of little details that we have to worry about here. And what we're going to be doing with a lot of this is selecting two things using the Shift key to get the second item. But it's to select both the FK Doctor ID label and the text box and change the width to 0.6. So let me show you what they're talking about here. FK Doctor ID, the label is this thing right here. The text box is this thing right here. And so this text box, if we click it, we also select this one and this one. Clicking any of these text boxes selects all of them. This is where the database displays, in this case, doctor number 1, doctor number 2. What we want to do is have this and also this be the same width. In other words, for just a single number, this here is taking up way too much space. Now, in real life, we could use the mouse to shrink it down. We're not going to do that. We're going to use the property sheet and the format tab to control the width, okay? But we want to control the width of this and this at the same time to make them identical in both where they're positioned and also how wide they are. Now for this first step, we're just going to change the width of FK Doctor ID and the corresponding text box. So here's what you need to do. Click on FK Doctor ID, then take your hand and press down on the Shift key on your keyboard and then click the box that has the number 1 in it. Notice we have selected two things here, really one thing and then a group of other things. Now let's click on width over here. You may need to go to format on the property sheet. Since we have a multiple selection here, this is blank. It doesn't have a name of anything because we have more than one thing selected. Also because these things have different widths, the width field is currently blank because they don't have matching widths, but they are going to have matching widths in a second. The matching width that we're going to be putting here for FK Doctor ID and the matching text box is going to be 0.6. So all we have to do is do .6. We don't need to worry about the inches symbol. That's understood. Hit the Enter key, and that makes them both 0.6 inches wide. That gives us all of this space here to start moving things over. So let's take a look at what happens next. Select the width, change the width of the invoice ID label and its text box to 0.75 and the left property to 0.1. Okay, I'm going to be working off of my handout here, and I may try to put on the screen a little chart that shows you all of these widths and lefts. But what we're going to be doing is the same operation for a bunch of different things. Selecting the label, holding the Shift key, selecting the matching text box, and then for that multiple selection, changing two things, the width and the left properties. The way they phrase these sentences, it's not the most logically written instruction in the world. So I'm going to put a chart on the screen in the video for you guys, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to do invoice ID. I'll click on the word invoice ID. I'll hold down Shift and click on the number 1 underneath it. It selects all these other boxes as well. For this pair, the width, and I'll call your attention to where I'm doing this in my property sheet. The width is going to be 0.8. And then I'll use the down arrow key 1, 2, 3 times to get to left, and left is going to be 1 inch over. And that's going to see those boxes that we selected teleport to the left, okay? Now we want to do the same type of thing here for invoice date. Click on invoice date, hold down the Shift key, click one of these dates underneath it. What is the width of this going to be? For invoice date, it's going to be 1 inch wide. Type that, hit the down arrow key 1, 2, 3 times, make sure you're on the row labeled left. And for invoice date, the left is going to be 1.9, 1.9, enter, okay? Description comes next, click one time on description. Now hold down the Shift key and click one of these descriptions here. What is our width? Let's click width in the property sheet. 2.8, we need to type that right there. Hit the down arrow key 1, 2, 3 times. Make sure that you are in the row labeled left. And if you are, the description is going to be positioned with the left edge of the description at 3 inches. So type a 3, hit enter. So that means that the left edge of these boxes is 3 inches from the edge of the form. Go to due date, click on due date, hold down the shift key, click one of the dates underneath. Due date is going to be 1 inch wide, so find width. Make sure you're in the width row. Type 1, use the down arrow key 3 times. Go to left and type 6 and hit enter. Date received, click on the words date received, shift and click on one of the dates. Find where width is in your properties, and it's going to be 1 inch wide. Down arrow 3 times, verify your position, and it's going to be at 7.1. Amount due comes next. Let's click amount due, shift, and click one of the numbers underneath it. For width, we're going to change that to 1 inch even. Use the down arrow key 3 times. Make sure we're in the right position. Type 8.3, enter. Now we're going to need to find discount. So skip over this number for right now. Click on discount, shift and click on $25. Discount is going to be how wide? Let's click width and we're going to type in 0.7.7. Down 3 times. Left is going to be 9.4. And that should teleport that to where all of those columns now are going to fit onto the width of a single sheet of paper. Now we do have this number here way off to the edge. What is that? It actually belongs to this sum, S-U-M right there. So we'll need to deal with that here in a future step. Let's go back to our instructions and click off the steps that we have completed here, and width of discount, okay? So now we're going to clean up a few other things here. We're going to add the title label and the invoice ID and date received field labels by putting some spaces between these words. So let's see how to go about doing that. The title label here is rent invoices. Click in between rent and invoices. Get your blinking line after the T before the I. Hit the space 1 time. After that, we need to do something similar for the date received and the invoice ID. Let's find invoice ID. Click it again to get your insertion point. Use your arrow keys if you want to move backwards and forwards. Put a space before ID. Find date received. Click it. Try to get your insertion point after the word date. Add a space right there. And then for the next step, we're going to go to FK Doctor ID and get rid of the FK, which stands for foreign key, and it's a database term that tells us that the FK Doctor ID in this table links to the doctor's ID in the doctor table. We don't need to have that on our report. We're going to make it look a little bit more normal by just having doctor ID. So let's do it like this. FK, go ahead and backspace over FK. That should give you enough room for doctor ID with a space before ID. So go ahead and make that edit. And so now all of these labels look a little bit better, a little bit more normal. Change the width of the text box that displays the amount due for each doctor to 1 inch and change its left property to 8.3. So let's find the text box that displays the sum of the amount due for each doctor, and that's going to be I believe, this box right here that has the actual numbers in it. Click on that. And we want to change the width to 1 and the left to 8.3. So click on the number 7,500. Go to format if you need to. It should say sum of amount due. Find width. And I have to look at my paper here because I've already forgotten. 1 inch, arrow down 3 times, verify you're in the right position, and then type 8.3, enter, and that moves that into the stack right underneath amount due. That looks a lot better. Okay, click to select a summary for FK Doctor ID text box and change the width to 6 and the height to .2. Okay, what does that look like? That is going to be this here. Notice that that stretches all the way across what used to be 2 pages. So we want to make that smaller so that we can fit it onto 1 page. And I would actually also get rid of the FK here and put a space between doctor and ID, but they don't tell us to, so we won't. What we will do is select it just by clicking on it 1 time. And we're going to go and find the width of it, which is over 21 inches. And we're going to make that to be 6 inches wide. And the height of it, that's just 1 row below. Use the down arrow key 1 time. We're going to change the height of it to 0.2, which makes it just a little bit taller. All right, let's take a look at our instructions. Click to select the sum label and change the left property to 7.9. Okay, so let's find the sum label on our report. There it is right there. And find left, and we'll type 7.9. That's going to move it to the right quite a bit. So it lines up right next to the total amount that the doctors had in all of their invoices. Scroll to the bottom of the report, change the width of the text box that displays the grand total amount to 1 inch, and the left property to 8.3. Okay, so let's go all the way to the bottom of our report. I'm using the wheel on my mouse to do that. You can also use the scroll bar. And we're going to change the width of the text box that displays the total of the amount due, and that's going to be this box right here, the grand total. We're going to change that to be 1 inch wide. So I'll type 1 inch there and move down 3 times to left and type 8.3. And that lines it up with all of the other numbers right there. Select the label grand total and change its left property to 7.4. So click on grand total right here. Find its left property and type 7.4. And that lines it up with everything else. Scroll to the lower right corner of the report and find the text box with the page number. Change the width to 1 inch and the left to 9.4. Okay, so let's go all the way over. I'm going to use my mouse to slide sideways until I can see page 1 of 1. And we're going to find the width property here for our page number. And width is going to be 1 inch. And arrow down 1, 2, 3 times. And left is going to be 9.4, which should just fit it into the lower corner of our paper. All right. And it says to save the report. So everything seems to be fitting now onto the width of a single page. I'll hit Control S to save that. Switch to report view, scroll to the top of the report and make sure it looks kind of like this right here. So let's go to view and choose report view. And so now it shows how it would be printed on the screen or on paper where we don't have all of the lines. We can't click on anything and change the width or move it around. That's what it's going to look like. Let's switch back to layout view and do just a couple more things here. Go to the View drop down on the Home tab and choose Layout View. You should be on your Report Layout Design tab. You want to now click on this button here, Group and Sort. and it activates a tool down here at the bottom of the page, and it already says that we are using group on FK Doctor ID. What that means is that we have Doctor ID number 1 as our first group with all of the invoices for that doctor. Doctor ID number 2 is here. All of the invoices are grouped together for that doctor. That's what grouping means. We're also going to add a sort so that the invoices are going to be sorted oldest to newest. And so to do that, you want to find where it says add a group, add a sort, and make sure you click on add a sort. Okay, add a sort. Click on that. It gives you a list of all the fields, and I think I said it's going to be invoice date. Yes, so we're going to choose invoice date from the pop-up here, and by default it sorts it from oldest to newest. So that would mean that we should have May, June, July, August. So May is older than June, June is older than July, and so forth. So it basically puts it into chronological order. We're going to do one more thing, add some conditional formatting so that any discount values, and you can see it right here in the picture, that are greater than or equal to $20 display in bold and green. So here's how we're going to do that. Click on the number 25. It selects all of these discounts here. That's fine. On your ribbon, go to the Format tab and find the button that says Conditional Formatting right here. Click on that, and because we've already selected the discount column, it should say discount here. If it doesn't, make sure that you fix that right now. Click on New Rule. We want this if the field value is greater than or equal to, so almost at the bottom of this list, open the drop-down list and choose greater than or equal to, and then type 20 here, just the number 20, okay? Before I forget, let's make it bold. And then we're going to change the color of it to a certain green color. I think it is this green color right here, green 5. Let me click it. Oh, that's wrong, guys. Do not do that. See the green background there? I use the paint bucket tool. Let me choose the paint bucket and make that automatic, and then get rid of that. I want to choose the letter A tool, and I'll choose that green tool right there, a green color right there. Let me just verify that I'm using the correct color. Green 5 is the color. So you want to make sure that the green stripe under the A is this color right there, green 5. Perfect. Click on OK once, click on OK twice, and now it's not a very, obvious thing. It doesn't really jump out that much, but anything that's over $20 or $20 or above should be green and bold. That then is about the last thing that we're going to do. Let's take a look at this in print preview just to see what it looks like. I'm going to go to File and choose Print and Print Preview. And yeah, that looks pretty good. It's going to actually print out on 3 pages, but everything fits onto the width of a single page. So it does look a lot better than what it did look like when we started. We should be able to close print preview and submit this work here. So it said to zoom it to make sure that it was set to 1 page. That's this button right here. Make sure that you click on that right there. Close print preview, save one last time, File, Save. And I'm going to go ahead and upload this by going back into SIMnet, and to the top of the page, I will click on Upload My File. Hopefully I've not been sitting here so long that I'm logged out. Let me try again. Okay, I paused the video. I had to go and re-log into SIMnet, and then I uploaded this, and it took a long time to grade it, and it came back with a mistake in it, and so I'm going to snip that out of the video here, but I'll show you how to fix the mistake I made in case I made you make the same mistake. And so I'll open the rent invoices report, and it says that the invoice ID should be at 0.75, and I have it set to 0.8. Okay, so invoice ID, I need to be in layout view. Click on invoice ID, shift and click here, and change that to 0.75. Width is 0.8. Indeed, it should be 0.75. Hit enter, and I'll just double check that left is 1, which is correct. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this and save it. And I'll go ahead and upload this again by clicking on the title, upload my file, Courtyard Medical Plaza, send it. I'll pause the video. And that is correct. Okay, so I fixed that and everything else is fine. If you followed along, feel free to submit yours and see how you did. I hope the video was helpful to you. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.